Humans are coming. Those three words, transmitting from a stolen human comm array deep within Voxari space, were the only warning the galaxy's most ruthless empire received before the reckoning began. The year was 2347, and the Voxari had conquered nearly everything, subjugating entire species, strip-mining planets, and enslaving billions with their advanced ships and cruel tactics. But they made one fatal mistake. They crossed paths with humanity. It started when a lone Earth exploration vessel, the Defiant, rescued a survivor from a crippled Unas ship. The Unas engineer, Altair, revealed the true horror of the Voxari's centuries-long oppression and begged Captain Marcus Gordon for help. He gave Marcus intel on a secret vulnerability in the Voxari's defenses. For battle-scarred Marcus, a chance to turn the tide against such blatant evil was too tempting to ignore. Earth's non-interference laws be damned. Disobeying orders, Marcus and Altair ventured deep into enemy territory to gather proof of Voxari atrocities. What they found turned stomachs. Secret labor camps where millions toiled as slaves to feed the Voxari war machine. Torture, genocide, unthinkable cruelty on a galactic scale. Marcus and his crew liberated hundreds of Una's captives in a brazen prison break, striking the Voxari a painful blow and sparking fierce debate back on Earth. Some called Marcus a dangerous rogue. Others hailed him a hero for standing against alien tyranny. But when Emperor Zorgax dispatched a massive fleet to crush the Defiant and her upstart human crew, Marcus knew the time for half measures had passed. Rallying his people and Una's allies, he embarked on a desperate mission to exploit the weakness Altair had uncovered and start a rebellion to burn the Voxari Empire down. Now, with his ship crippled, his crew on the edge of oblivion, and the survival of entire species hanging in the balance, Marcus faces an impossible choice. Flee to fight another day and abandon the Una's cause, or risk it all on a final devastating strike to cripple the Voxari and light the spark of galactic revolution? The hour of reckoning has come. A war unlike any other looms on the horizon, and one way or another the galaxy will never be the same. The Defiant limped into Earth's orbit, its hull scarred and systems badly damaged from the daring rescue mission. Marcus and Altair wasted no time, rushing to the United Earth Council chamber with their shocking evidence of Voxari atrocities. The images and recordings sent a chill through the gathered officials. "This cannot stand," Marcus declared, his voice raw with emotion. "The Voxari have enslaved and slaughtered billions. We have a moral obligation to act." Altair stepped forward, his alien features contorted with pain and anger. "My people suffer under the Voxari's boot. You are our only hope." But many on the council balked at the prospect of war. "We have our own people to protect," argued Councilwoman Nadia Patel. Provoking the Voxari could bring their wrath down upon Earth. The debate grew heated, voices rising until a deafening alarm cut through the chamber. On the screen, a massive Voxari warship loomed over Earth, its weapons charged and ready. "People of Earth," boomed the menacing voice of Emperor Zorgax. "You harbor criminals who have struck against the Voxari Empire. Surrender them, or face annihilation." Panic erupted in the council chamber. Some called for immediate capitulation, others for defiance. Amidst the chaos, Marcus's voice rang out. "I have a plan," he said, his eyes blazing with tenacity. "I'll surrender myself to Zorgax. Buy time for Earth to ready its defenses." He turned to Altair. "And time for you to return to Una's space, to light the spark of rebellion." The council erupted in protest, calling it a suicide mission. But Marcus stood firm. "It's our only chance. If we can expose the Voxari's weakness from within, we can bring them down." As the clock ticked down, the council reluctantly agreed. Marcus gathered his crew, his eyes misting as he faced Vikram. "The Defiant is yours now, old friend. Give 'em hell." In a tense exchange, Marcus boarded a shuttle and flew towards the waiting Voxari ship. He stood tall as Zorgax's guards enclosed him, never breaking eye contact with the sneering emperor. As the warship jumped to hyperspace, Zorgax savored his triumph. I'm going to make an example of you, he snarled. The galaxy will watch you die. But Marcus just smiled coldly. As the ship entered Voxari space, he activated a hidden program, the Trojan horse he'd smuggled aboard. Alarms blared as the security systems failed, Marcus slipping free of his bonds and racing for the shuttle bay. Klaxons wailed as Zorgax realized he'd been outplayed. Marcus blasted free in a stolen shuttle, broadcasting a message of defiance across Voxari frequencies. The time of reckoning has come. Rise up, all who yearn to be free. And rise they did. Across the Empire, long-oppressed species took up arms, Una's rebels leading the charge. Zorgax, apoplectic with rage, screamed for the rebels' head. Crush the Earthlings! Grind their wretched planet to dust! But Marcus raced on towards the coordinates Altair had provided, where Una's freedom fighters waited. Together, they would strike at the heart of Voxari power, paving the way for a galaxy-wide uprising of all those who defied tyranny. It was a desperate gamble, but as news spread of the daring human who had humiliated an emperor and called the oppressed to arms, a spark of hope ignited. The days of the Voxari's cruel rule were numbered, and Captain Marcus Gordon would lead the charge. Marcus's stolen shuttle limped into the hidden asteroid base, its hull still smoking from close calls with Voxari patrols. As the airlock cycled, he was greeted by a sea of alien faces. Una's rebels alongside other species he'd never seen before. Altair rushed forward, clasping Marcus's arm in a warrior's grip. You made it, Altair said, his multifaceted eyes gleaming. And not a moment too soon. Marcus took in the cramped, bustling command center carved into the asteroid's core. Mismatched equipment hummed and blinked, while beings of all shapes and sizes huddled over star charts and weapons schematics. Quite the operation you've got here, Marcus said. Altair nodded grimly. We've been busy. But uniting these factions hasn't been easy. That's where you come in. Over the next weeks, Marcus threw himself into molding this ragtag group into a fighting force. He drilled them in Earth military tactics, teaching them to work as cohesive units despite their differences. Move as one, he barked as a mixed squad of Unas and spindly Krila fumbled through a simulation. The Voxari won't care what species you are when the plasma starts flying. Altair focused on more covert skills, showing them how to sabotage Voxari systems and exploit weaknesses in their defenses. Progress was slow, but day by day, a real resistance took shape. Then the news came. Voxari ships swarmed Earth's orbit, raining death on defenseless cities. Marcus watched in horror as familiar skylines erupted in flames on the grainy view screens. We have to do something, he growled, smacking his fist on a console. Altair laid a four-fingered hand on his shoulder. And we will. But we must be smart. Strike where it hurts them most. Using Altair's inside knowledge, they planned a series of lightning raids on Voxari supply depots and comm relays. Marcus led from the front, his shuttle now filled with cobbled-together weapons as they hit target after target. After one particularly brutal firefight left the Voxari fuel depot in ruins, Marcus's comm crackled to life. It was Vikram, his voice tense. Whatever you're doing out there, keep it up, Vikram said. It's buying us time, but I don't know how much longer we can hold out. Marcus clenched his teeth, watching his ragtag fleet limp back to base. They were making a difference. But would it be enough? The answer came sooner than he'd hoped. Their next target was a heavily fortified command center, coordinating Voxari forces across 3 sectors. The intel was good, but the Voxari were ready. Alarms blared as Marcus and his team fought their way through twisting corridors. They'd almost reached the main computer core when a squad of Voxari troops ambushed them. In the chaos, Altair was cut off and captured. Marcus wanted to go back, but there was no time. They had to complete the mission and get out. As they raced back to their ships, Marcus's mind raced. He couldn't leave Altair behind. 3 days later, Marcus led a small strike team back to the Voxari base. They'd located where Altair was being held, but getting in wouldn't be easy. Remember, Marcus told his squad as they prepared to breach the cell block. We go in fast and quiet. One shot is all it takes to bring the whole base down on us. The rescue went sideways almost immediately. Alarms shrieked as they fought their way to Altair's cell. Marcus found his friend broken and bloody, but alive. "Took you long enough," Altair croaked as Marcus cut his bonds. They almost made it out, but in the final firefight, Marcus caught a plasma bolt to the side. He stumbled, vision blurring as his team dragged him to safety. When he came to in the medbay, Altair was there. The Unas looked haggard, but his eyes burned with renewed fire. "You shouldn't have come for me," Altair said. Marcus tried to sit up, wincing at the pain. "Like hell I shouldn't. We're in this together." Before Altair could respond, the door burst open. A breathless runner skidded to a halt. "Sirs," he panted, "you need to see this." On the main view screen, chaos unfolded. Voxari ships fired on each other, battle lines fragmenting as confusion reigned. "What's happening?" Marcus demanded. Altair's eyes widened. "A coup. The Empire is tearing itself apart." Marcus stood, ignoring the protest of his wounds. "Then this is our chance. We hit them now while they're divided." He turned to Altair, a fierce grin spreading across his face. "How'd you like to pay a visit to the Voxari homeworld?" As they planned the assault, adrenaline coursing through him, Marcus's calm chimed. His blood ran cold as he saw the sender, Vikram. He opened the message, and his world tilted on its axis. Earth was falling. The Defiant led a last, desperate stand against overwhelming odds. Marcus stared at the message, the weight of two worlds pressing down on him. Strike at the heart of the enemy, or rush to Earth's defense? With shaking hands, he made his choice. Marcus's hand trembled as he made the call. "All ships, this is Captain Gordon. Set course for Voxar Prime. We end this now." The rebel fleet surged through hyperspace, a ragtag armada of stolen Voxari cruisers and cobbled-together fighters. Marcus paced the bridge of his flagship, the stolen Voxari dreadnought he'd christened Liberty. "Exiting hyperspace in 3, 2, 1, the navigator called out. The swirling vortex of FTL travel fell away, revealing the Voxari homeworld. For a heartbeat, Marcus allowed himself to hope they'd caught the enemy by surprise. Then space itself erupted in plasma fire. "Evasive maneuvers!" Marcus roared as the first volley slammed into Liberty's shields. "All ships, break formation and engage!" The comm crackled to life. "Gordon, you fool!" The voice was deep, guttural, unmistakably Voxari. "I am Warlord Kralker, and you've flown right into my trap." Rebel ships scattered as a massive Voxari fleet decloaked around them. Marcus gripped the command console. "Altair, we need a way through their lines, now." The Unas' eyes flicked rapidly over sensor readouts. "There, a weak point in their defensive grid. If we can punch through there, we can make for the shipyards." Marcus nodded grimly. "You heard him. All ships, focus fire on that sector. We're going for the throat." Liberty shuddered as it absorbed another barrage. Alarms blared as Voxari boarding craft latched onto the hull. "Damn it," Marcus snarled. "Security teams to all breached sectors. I'm heading down there myself." He sprinted through burning corridors, blaster in hand. The stench of ozone and burning flesh filled the air as his security teams engaged the Voxari borders. A massive, scaled form loomed ahead, Warlord Kralkur himself. "I've been waiting for this, human," Kralkur growled, unsheathing wickedly curved blades. Marcus barely dove clear as Kralkur's first slash carved a molten gash in the bulkhead. The Voxari was fast for his size, but Marcus was faster. He rolled under another swing, coming up inside Kralkur's reach to land a solid punch to the alien's midsection. Kralkur bellowed in rage, backhanding Marcus into a wall. Stars exploded across the human's vision. He tasted blood. "Is that all you've got?" Marcus spat, forcing a grin. He feinted left, then drove his knee into Kralkur's leg. As the Voxari stumbled, Marcus unleashed a flurry of strikes to vulnerable points Altair had shown him. Kralkur roared in pain and fury, his attacks growing wilder. Marcus ducked under a haymaker, then drove his palm up into Kralkur's throat. The Voxari's eyes bulged as he gasped for air. A final savage kick sent the warlord crashing to the deck. Panting, Marcus stood over his fallen foe. "It's over, Kralkur. Call off your fleet." A harsh laugh bubbled from Kralkur's throat. "Fool. Zorgax has a weapon that will end this war. Our homeworld is about to burn, and your pathetic rebellion with it." Marcus's blood ran cold as alarms shrieked to life. On screens throughout the ship, a monstrous vessel emerged from hyperspace, filled with weapons and crowned by a massive cannon that crackled with unholy energy. "Gods," Marcus breathed. He keyed his comm. "Altair, tell me you're seeing this." "I am," the Unas replied, his voice grim. "Marcus, that cannon has enough power to crack a planet in half. If Zorgax fires it..." "Millions die, and he consolidates power," Marcus finished. "We have to stop it." "How?" Altair demanded. "Our fleet is in tatters, and that thing's shields are impenetrable." Marcus's mind focused as he watched the doomsday weapon charge. "Not from the inside. Prep a strike team. We're boarding that ship." Altair's protests fell on deaf ears as Marcus rallied his best fighters. They piled into a stealth shuttle, using the chaos of battle as cover to slip past the super dreadnought's defenses. They fought their way through corridors, crawling with Zorgax's elite guard. Marcus led from the front, his blaster spitting death as they clawed their way toward the bridge. They burst onto the command deck in a storm of plasma fire. Marcus's eyes locked onto the towering form of Emperor Zorgax himself. "You're too late, human," Zorgax sneered. "My cannon is charged. Your rebellion ends here." A dozen Praetorian guards swarmed Marcus, driving him back. His strike team was overwhelmed, falling one by one. Marcus fought like a demon, but he knew it wasn't enough. Then Altair was there, teleporting into the fray with a stolen Voxari phase shifter. Back to back, human and Unas carved through Zorgax's guards. "The cannon!" Marcus yelled as Klaxons wailed. "It's firing!" With a desperate surge, they bull-rushed Zorgax. The massive alien laughed as he backhanded Altair across the room. He seized Marcus by the throat, lifting him off his feet. "Watch as your revolution burns," Zorgax gloated. But Marcus wasn't done. With the last of his strength, he triggered the grappling line on his belt. It shot out, wrapping around Zorgax's legs. Marcus twisted, using the alien's own momentum to hurl him into the firing chamber of the planet-killer cannon. Zorgax's scream was cut short as the weapon discharged. For a moment, the bridge was bathed in searing light. Then silence fell. Marcus staggered to the main console, shutting down the cannon. Around him, Voxari crew stood frozen in shock. "Zorgax is dead," he broadcast across all frequencies. "The war is over." Across the system, Voxari ships began to power down weapons. But before Marcus could savor the victory, a priority message flashed on his screen. His heart sank as he read the words. "Earth has fallen. The Defiant is lost." Marcus stared at the screen, his vision blurring as the words seared into his brain. Earth had fallen. The Defiant was gone. He smacked his palm onto the console, ignoring the pain that shot through his hand. "No," he growled, pushing himself upright. "This isn't over." He strode onto the bridge of the Liberty, where Altair and the rest of the command crew waited. Their faces were grim, having already heard the news. "We're going back," Marcus announced, his voice hard. "We're taking Earth back." Altair stepped forward, concern etched on his alien features. "Marcus, our forces are depleted. The Voxari still outnumber us significantly." "I don't care," Marcus snapped. He tapped a series of commands into the main tactical display. "Look, Zorgax's death has thrown their empire into chaos. We have ships surrendering left and right. We use that." As if on cue, the comms officer called out, "Sir, we're receiving transmissions from multiple Voxari vessels. They're offering to join us." Marcus nodded grimly. "Get them integrated into our fleet. We move as soon as we're ready." Over the next hours, Marcus worked tirelessly, coordinating with the newly allied Voxari ships and piecing together intelligence reports. A name kept coming up: Thraxus, a Voxari commander who had seized control of Earth. "He's using hostages," Marcus muttered, poring over the data. "Families of resistance leaders. Vikram's out there somewhere, organizing what's left of our people." The Liberty shuddered as it entered hyperspace, leading the ragtag rebel fleet toward Earth. Marcus stood at the viewport, watching the swirling vortex of FTL travel. "We're approaching the outer system," the navigator announced. "Exiting hyperspace in 3, 2, 1. The fleet erupted back into normal space, immediately greeted by a hail of weapons fire. Proximity alarms blared as debris from shattered ships and active mines filled the sensors. "Evasive maneuvers," Marcus barked. "All ships, scatter formation. Push through to the asteroid belt." The Liberty rocked violently as a mine detonated off the port bow. Marcus gripped the command chair, watching as allied ships exploded around them. "Sir, Voxari cruisers decloaking at 3 o'clock, an officer shouted. Marcus's eyes narrowed. "Bring us about. Concentrate fire on their lead ship. We punch through now." The battle raged for hours as the rebel fleet clawed its way through the debris field. By the time they reached the relative safety of the asteroid belt, their numbers had been cut by a third. In the makeshift war room carved into a hollowed-out asteroid, Marcus laid out his plan to the assembled commanders: human, Voxari, and a dozen alien species. "We hit them from multiple angles," he explained, gesturing to the holographic display of Earth. "A frontal assault here, to establish a beachhead and link up with Vikram's resistance. Meanwhile, our second group strikes their orbital facilities, crippling their supply lines." He paused, his gaze sweeping the room. "I'll lead a stealth team to take out Thraxus directly. Without his leadership, their forces should fracture." A grizzled human captain spoke up. "Sir, with respect, this is a suicide mission. Even if we succeed, Earth has been devastated. What are we really fighting for?" Marcus stepped forward, his eyes blazing. "Home, family, everything that makes us human. Yes, Earth is battered, but it's still ours, and I'll be damned if I let those Voxari bastards keep it." He turned back to the hologram, zooming in on the scarred surface of the planet. "Make no mistake, this will be the hardest fight of our lives, but it's one we have to win. For Earth, for everyone we've lost." The room fell silent as the weight of his words sank in. Then, one by one, the assembled leaders nodded their agreement. Marcus allowed himself a small, grim smile. "All right then, let's go save our world." As the commanders filed out to prepare their forces, Marcus lingered, staring at the holographic Earth. He thought of Vikram fighting somewhere on that ravaged surface, of the families held hostage by Thraxus, of everything that hung in the balance. "We're coming," he whispered. "Hold on just a little longer." With a deep breath, Marcus straightened his shoulders and strode out of the war room. The final battle for Earth was about to begin. The rebel fleet burst from hyperspace, a ragtag armada of human and alien vessels united against Thraxus's tyranny. Marcus stood on the bridge of the Liberty, watching as Earth loomed before them, scarred and battered but still home. "All ships, engage!" Marcus barked into the comm. "Hit their orbital defenses hard and fast." Space lit up with weapons fire as the rebels clashed with Thraxus's forces. The Liberty shuddered as it absorbed a barrage from a Voxari cruiser. Marcus gripped the command console, scanning tactical readouts. "There!" he shouted, pointing to a gap in the enemy lines. "Strike team with me. We're going in." Marcus raced to the hangar bay, joining his elite squad in a stealth shuttle. They rocketed through the chaos of battle, weaving between debris and explosions. The shuttle's hull glowed red-hot as they plunged into Earth's atmosphere. They touched down in the ruins of what had once been Denver. Marcus led his team through shattered streets, ducking into shadows whenever Voxari patrols passed. They found Vikram's resistance cell holed up in an abandoned subway station. Vikram, gaunt and haunted-looking, clasped Marcus's arm. "Thank God you're here, but you're too late." "What do you mean?" Marcus demanded. Vikram's eyes brimmed with unshed tears. Thraxus. He's rounded up thousands. Our families, Marcus. He's holding them in camps, threatening to execute them all if we don't surrender. Marcus's blood ran cold. He paced the grimy subway platform, mind racing. We need a plan, fast. They huddled around a makeshift holotable, outlining a risky move. Vikram would lead a frontal assault on Thraxus's command bunker, drawing out his forces. Meanwhile, Marcus and his team would hit the largest internment camp, aiming for a mass breakout. It's risky as hell, Marcus admitted, but it's our best shot. The plan went into motion. Vikram's team launched their assault, filling the air with plasma fire and explosions. Using the chaos as cover, Marcus led his squad toward the internment camp. They breached the outer defenses in a hail of gunfire, taking down Voxari guards with brutal efficiency. But as they fought their way deeper into the facility, Marcus's blood ran cold. He spotted telltale signs of explosive charges rigged throughout the camp. It's a trap, he shouted. Thraxus wired this place to blow. We need to evacuate now. They raced against time, herding terrified civilians toward the breach they'd made. Marcus carried a sobbing child, urging the refugees to run faster. The first shuttles were already lifting off as the charges began to detonate. The ground heaved beneath Marcus's feet. He dove, shielding the child as a wave of fire and debris washed over them. When the roar subsided, he stood on shaky legs, staring at the smoldering crater where the camp had been. Fury blazed in Marcus's eyes as he keyed his comm. All units, converge on Thraxus's bunker. We end this, now. The rebels threw everything they had at the fortified command center. Tanks and mechs pounded the outer defenses as infantry swarmed forward. Marcus led from the front, blasters spitting death as they fought their way inside. In the heart of the bunker, they cornered Thraxus. The Voxari commander snarled, unsheathing wicked blades. Marcus charged, dodging razor-sharp slashes as they dueled through the command center. Thraxus was skilled, but Marcus fought with the rage of humanity behind him. He weathered cuts and blows, giving back as good as he got. Finally, he saw an opening and drove his fist into Thraxus's throat. The Voxari went down hard. But even as he fell, Thraxus's hand stretched toward a control panel. If I can't have Earth, he wheezed, no one will. Marcus dove, tackling Thraxus away from the controls. He slammed the alien's head against the floor, stunning him long enough to access the system. His fingers flew over the interface, frantically working to disable the orbital strike Thraxus had tried to trigger. Alarms blared as targeting locks disengaged. Marcus sagged with relief, then turned to the beaten Voxari commander. It's over, Thraxus, he growled. Surrender now. Thraxus glared up at Marcus, hate burning in his alien eyes. But seeing rebel troops flooding into the command center, he finally slumped in defeat. I surrender, Thraxus hissed. Thraxus spat blood and glared at Marcus with undisguised hatred. You've won nothing, human. My people will never submit. Marcus yanked the Voxari commander to his feet. It's over. Tell your forces to stand down. But even as Thraxus broadcast the surrender order, Marcus knew the fight was far from finished. Reports flooded in of Voxari holdouts across the planet, refusing to lay down arms. For days, an uneasy quiet settled over the shattered remains of Earth's cities. Marcus paced the halls of the captured command bunker, poring over tactical readouts. A message from Altair flashed on his comm. Marcus, our alliance is gaining strength. More Voxari factions defect each day. The time to strike is now. Marcus assembled his war council. Human resistance fighters stood shoulder to shoulder with allied Voxari. He laid out holographic maps of Earth's surface. We hit them hard and fast, Marcus explained, highlighting key targets. Multiple armored thrusts to overwhelm their defenses. Vikram, your cells will provide real-time intel. Vikram nodded grimly. We're ready. My people are everywhere. The assault began at dawn. Marcus rode in the lead tank as it smashed through the rubble-choked streets of what had once been Chicago. Plasma bolts sizzled past, Voxari snipers firing from bombed-out skyscrapers. "Push forward," Marcus shouted into the comm. "Don't let them regroup." A Voxari battle mech loomed ahead, its particle cannons glowing hot. Marcus's gunner fired, armor-piercing rounds tearing through alien alloys. The mech toppled, crushing a hover transport beneath it. Block by block, they clawed their way toward the city center. Marcus's forces used sewers and subway tunnels to outflank Voxari strongpoints. They emerged behind enemy lines, catching the aliens in devastating crossfires. After hours of brutal combat, Marcus's column finally broke through to the orbital command center. He climbed from his battered tank, blaster at the ready. "Breach charges," he ordered. "We take this position now." The wall erupted in fire and twisted metal. Marcus led the charge through the smoking hole, cutting down Voxari guards with precise bursts. They had just secured the command center when alarms blared, new contacts appearing in orbit. "Sir," a technician cried, "Voxari warships decloaking. They're targeting our positions." Marcus watched in horror as energy beams lanced down from the sky, vaporizing friend and foe alike. He grabbed the comm system. "Unknown Voxari fleet, this is Marcus Traylon. Cease fire immediately or face the consequences." A gravelly voice responded, dripping with contempt. "I am Warlord Shorvac. Your pathetic rebellion ends now." Marcus cursed, fingers flying over the command console. He uploaded a dormant virus, praying it would work. For agonizing seconds, nothing happened. Then Shorvac's ships began to turn, weapons blazing, at each other. "What have you done?" Shorvac roared. But Marcus had no time to savor the victory. Warning klaxons shrieked as the orbital cannons powered up, targeting the command center. "Override!" Marcus yelled to his techs. "Shut it down now!" They worked frantically, but the system rejected every attempt. The cannon's whine grew to a fever pitch. 10 seconds to firing!" someone shouted. Marcus's comm crackled. Altair's voice. "Marcus, use this key!" New code flashed across the screen. Marcus input it with trembling fingers. The cannons fell silent. On the tactical display, the last of Shorvac's ships winked out. For a moment, utter stillness. Then cheers erupted as reports flooded in. All across Earth, Voxari forces were laying down their weapons. Marcus sagged against the console, exhaustion etched on his face. They'd done it. Earth was free. But as he looked out over the ruined landscape, his victory felt hollow. The real challenge, rebuilding their shattered world, was only beginning. Marcus stood on the observation deck of the Liberty, watching Earth slowly recede into the distance. The planet's scarred surface was a stark reminder of the cost of their victory. Entire continents lay dark, cities reduced to smoldering ruins. He clenched his fists, the weight of his decision pressing down on him. "Sir, the latest casualty reports," a young officer said, handing him a data pad. Marcus scanned the numbers, his fists tightening. Millions dead, countless more wounded or displaced. He tossed the pad aside, unable to look at it any longer. "Status on the relief efforts?" he asked. "We've established refugee centers in the least affected areas," the officer replied. "Medical supplies are being distributed, but it's not enough. We need more time to—" "Time we don't have," Marcus cut him off. He turned to face the assembled command staff. "I know what you're all thinking. We should stay and rebuild. But if we don't finish this now, there won't be anything left to rebuild." He pulled up a holographic display of nearby star systems. "The Voxari are in disarray. We hit them hard, but they're still dangerous. We need to press our advantage." "With respect, sir," an older general spoke up, "our forces are stretched thin. If we push too far, we leave Earth vulnerable." Marcus nodded. "I understand the risks, but I'm betting that a show of force now will break their will to fight. Altair is rallying our allies as we speak. We strike fast, we strike hard, and we end this war for good." He zoomed in on a familiar location. "Our first target is Thraxis's old command bunker. We take it, fortify it, and use it as a springboard for our next moves." Over the next few days, Marcus led the assault on the bunker. Human engineers swarmed over the captured facility, repurposing Voxari tech for their own use. Marcus didn't rest, coordinating strikes on nearby moons and asteroids to secure vital resources. As the rebels' supply lines grew, Marcus pored over intelligence reports in his makeshift war room. One system caught his eye. Traxxas. "They're shipyards," he murmured. "If we take those out, it would cripple their ability to reinforce," Vikram finished studying the readouts. "But look at those defenses. Shracker's no fool." Marcus's eyes gleamed. "Then we'll have to outsmart him. Here's what we're going to do." The plan was audacious. Marcus split his fleet, sending the bulk of his forces on a frontal assault. He personally led a smaller, stealthier group, aiming to slip past Shracker's defenses. As they approached Traxxas, Marcus's comm crackled. "Sir, Shracker's ships are moving to engage our main force." "Good," Marcus said. "Keep them busy. We're going in." But as they neared their target, alarms blared. Voxari ships decloaked all around them, weapons blazing. "It's a trap," Marcus yelled. "Evasive maneuvers." The bridge rocked as enemy fire slammed into their shields. Marcus barked orders, his ships twisting and weaving through the barrage. But they were outnumbered and outgunned. Just as hope began to fade, new contacts appeared on the sensors. "This is Vikram," a welcome voice crackled over the comm. "Cavalry's here, Marcus. Let's finish this." With Shracker's forces split, Marcus seized his chance. He pushed his engines to the red line, closing on the shipyards. "All batteries fire!" he roared. The rebel ships unleashed hell, their weapons tearing into the exposed reactor cores. As explosions rippled across the massive facility, Marcus allowed himself a grim smile. "We did it," he breathed. "We actually did it." But there was no time to celebrate. As the shockwave from the destroyed shipyards engulfed a third of Shracker's fleet, Marcus began issuing new orders. They had won a critical victory, but the war was not nearly finished. Marcus stood on the bridge of the Liberty, his eyes fixed on the tactical display showing their next target, Tharsis Prime. The Voxari colony world loomed large, its orbital defense grid a web of deadly energy projections. "Vikram, you know your mission," Marcus said, turning to his trusted lieutenant. "Hit their supply lines hard. Keep them off balance." Vikram nodded, his face set with purpose. "We'll give them hell, sir. Good hunting on Tharsis." As Vikram's ships peeled away, Marcus keyed his comm. "Altair, we're in position. What's the status on that defense grid weakness?" "Sending data now," Altair's voice crackled. "There's a gap in their coverage at these coordinates. It's small, but it's our best shot." Marcus studied the new information, then turned to his helmsman. "Take us in. Full burn." The Liberty surged forward, leading a strike force of human warships. They threaded the needle between Voxari defense platforms, weapons fire screaming past them. A few unlucky ships erupted in flames, but the bulk of the fleet punched through. "We're clear," Marcus shouted. "All ships, commence landing operations." Dropships poured from the hangars, streaking toward the planet's surface. Marcus gripped the command rail as the Liberty shuddered, entering the atmosphere in a ball of fire. On the ground, chaos erupted. Voxari anti-aircraft batteries opened up, filling the sky with deadly flak. Human Marines hit the dirt running, plasma rifles blazing as they pushed through the alien defenders. Marcus strode from his landed ship, ducking as a nearby explosion showered him with debris. He keyed his tactical net. "All units, push forward. We need to secure a perimeter." The battle raged for hours. Marcus watched as his forces slowly gained ground, but at a heavy cost. Voxari hive towers loomed ahead, dripping with weapon emplacements. "Sir," his XO reported, "we're taking heavy losses. Those fortifications are too strong." Marcus's eyes narrowed. He studied the battlefield, then made a bold decision. "Bring the capital ships down. I want them firing point blank at those towers." "But sir, that'll leave them exposed." "Do it," Marcus ordered. Massive human warships descended from orbit, their main guns leveled at the Voxari strongholds. They opened fire at near-suicidal range, their shots tearing through alien alloys and vaporizing entire sections of the hive cities. As the towers crumbled, human forces surged forward. They carved out a foothold amidst the ruins, setting up a defensive perimeter. Marcus allowed himself a brief moment of satisfaction before the next crisis hit. "Incoming!" a scout shouted. "Massive Voxari counterattack!" Marcus climbed to a vantage point, his eyes widening at the sight. A vast column of Voxari armor bore down on them, led by a massive command vehicle. At its head stood the towering figure of Grand Admiral Schracker himself. "All units, fall back to defensive positions," Marcus ordered. He turned to his staff. "Get me firing solutions from our orbital guns. We make our stand here." Human soldiers scrambled to form a ragged firing line. Marcus moved among them, steadying nerves and checking weapons. The ground shook as Schracker's forces drew closer. Just as the Voxari struck, the sky lit up. Vikram's task force had arrived, their ships strafing Schracker's exposed flank. Caught between hammer and anvil, the alien advance faltered. Marcus seized his chance. He grabbed a nearby exosuit, strapping himself in. "I'm going after Schracker," he growled. "Cover me!" He charged through the melee, dodging plasma bolts and crushing alien skulls beneath armored feet. Ahead loomed Schracker's command vehicle, a behemoth of alien tech. The two leaders locked eyes. Schracker roared a challenge, leaping from his vehicle to meet Marcus head-on. They clashed in a fury of blows, Marcus's human ingenuity against Schracker's alien might. Marcus feinted, drawing Schracker into a reckless charge. At the last second, he triggered the charges he'd planted earlier. The ground erupted, sending Schracker's vehicle toppling onto the alien commander. When the dust settled, Marcus stood over Schracker's broken body. The Voxari leader gurgled, alien blood pooling beneath him. With a final, hateful glare, Schracker went still. Word of Schracker's death spread like wildfire. All across Tharsis Prime, Voxari forces threw down their arms. Marcus sagged against a nearby wall, exhaustion and pain finally catching up to him. "Sir," a comm officer approached, "the planet is ours. What are your orders?" Marcus straightened, his eyes sweeping over the battered landscape. "Secure every strategic point. I want this world turned into a fortress. The real fight is just beginning." Marcus stood on the bridge of the Liberty, his eyes fixed on the holographic display of Zarthor IV. The once impregnable throne world now seemed vulnerable, its defenses fractured by internal strife. "All ships report status," Marcus ordered, his voice tight with tension. "Diversionary fleet in position, sir," came the response. "Ready to engage on your command." Marcus nodded, then turned to his elite stealth squadron. "Particle corridor navigation locked in. Prepare for micro-jump sequence." The bridge fell silent as the stealth ships engaged their drives. Space warped around them, reality twisting as they slipped through uncharted corridors of subspace. Marcus gripped the command rail, his fingers tightening as the ship shuddered violently. Seconds stretched into eternity. Then with a lurch that sent crew members sprawling, they emerged in Zarthor's inner rings. "We're through," the nav officer shouted. "Outer defenses bypassed." Marcus wasted no time. "All ships weapons hot. Hit their orbital platforms before they can react." The stealth squadron unleashed hell, their concentrated fire tearing through surprised Voxari defenses. On the main view screen, Marcus watched as the diversionary fleet engaged, drawing fire from the outer perimeter. "Ground assault teams, prepare for drop," Marcus ordered. He turned to Vikram Ranjit, his most trusted lieutenant. "You ready for this?" Vikram grinned, teeth bared. "Born ready, sir. Let's finish this war." They boarded the lead dropship, rocketing toward the surface as space burned around them. Anti-aircraft fire filled the sky, but the pilots threaded their way through with preternatural skill. The moment they touched down, Marcus was moving. "Spread out! Secure that landing zone!" Plasma bolts sizzled past as Voxari defenders poured from nearby buildings. Marcus dove behind a pile of rubble, returning fire with his rifle. Beside him, Vikram coordinated their push forward. "Marcus!" Vikram shouted over the din. "We need to take out that heavy gun emplacement." Marcus nodded grimly. "Cover me!" He sprinted forward, dodging fire as Vikram and the others laid down suppressing volleys. With a running leap, Marcus cleared a low wall and found himself face to face with a Voxari gunner. There was no time to think. Marcus lashed out with his combat knife, catching the alien under its armored plates. As it fell, he turned the gun, unleashing a barrage that shredded the remaining defenses. "LZ secure," Vikram called out. "But we've got incoming." His words were cut off as a Voxari gunship screamed overhead, its plasma cannons carving furrows through their position. Marcus watched in horror as Vikram's vehicle took a direct hit, disappearing in a fireball. "Vikram!" he screamed, but there was no response. Before Marcus could search for survivors, his comm crackled. "Sir, this is Altair. We've located the clone facility. Sending coordinates now." Marcus swallowed hard, pushing down his grief. There would be time to mourn later. "All units regroup. We're going underground." They fought their way through the burning city, every step contested by fanatical Voxari guardians. Marcus took a glancing hit to his armor, the searing pain only driving him forward. At last, they reached the hidden entrance. As the blast doors gave way under their charges, Marcus led the charge into the shadowy depths. What greeted them chilled him to the bone. Row after row of clone tanks stretched into darkness, each containing a perfect replica of Emperor Zorgax. "By all the stars," a rebel soldier breathed, "there must be thousands." Before Marcus could respond, alarms blared. The tanks began to drain, clone warriors stirring to life. "Altair," Marcus shouted into his comm, "we need that kill code now." "Working on it," came the strained reply. "But there's a problem. The system's firewalls are adapting faster than I can breach them." Marcus cursed, watching as the first wave of clones advanced, their eyes glowing with inhuman hunger. He made his decision. "All units fall back to the entrance. We're overloading the reactors." "Marcus, no!" Altair's voice cracked. "The blast radius. You'll never make it out in time." "We don't have a choice," Marcus growled, fingers flying over the reactor controls. "This ends here." As his remaining forces retreated, Marcus set the final sequence. He took one last look at the armies of clones awakening around him, then turned and ran. The tunnels shook as the overload built. Marcus pushed himself to the limit, lungs burning as he sprinted for daylight. Behind him, a wave of fire roared through the facility. He burst from the entrance, diving for cover as the ground heaved beneath him. A blinding flash seared the sky, followed by a thunderous roar that seemed to shake the very foundations of Zarthor 4.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.